On this episode, we're going to be talking about discovering the one thing that you were born to do.
Welcome to Thriving Launch with Louise Congdon and Kamala Chambers, the show for heart-centered entrepreneurs who want it all.
5 days a week, we bring you different segments to inspire you to live a life of freedom. We interview the leading experts in the field of business, health, and love. Be sure to check out Training Tuesdays, where we give you a clear action plan to grow your own business.
Do you have a product or service that you would like to sell online? Or maybe you've been thinking about it, but you're reserved to do it because you need a website, you need complicated systems, and you need to spend money? Well, I've created a completely free course that teaches you how to use Facebook in a purely organic way. This means no ads and no money are needed. You can use Facebook completely free. So head on over to thrivinglaunch.com. Opt into my Profit from Social Media course. I'm going to teach you the free methods to using Facebook to make money today.
Today we are here with a 25-year plus entrepreneur, a New York Times best-selling author, the host of the #1 radio show, Reinvention Radio, an international keynote speaker, and an in-demand media guest who has appeared on CNN and a bunch of other places. We are here with Steve Olsher. So happy to have you on the show.
All right, Thriving Launchers, we're here with Steve Olsher, and I'm really excited to have him as a guest. I've been on his show, Reinvention Radio. Fantastic interviewer, really great resource. That show's a great resource, but Steve is also a great resource, especially for finding your what. What is that one amazing thing that you were born to do? And what I like about what we're diving in today is a lot of us have a lot of passions, have this sense of, what do I figure out what I'm supposed to share with the world? I'm passionate about this, and that, but how do I turn that into something that can be profitable? How do I find the one thing that I was really meant to do and do it as a living? So Steve, welcome to the show. Great to have you here. Are you ready to launch?
Yeah, appreciate you having me. Let's do this.
It's a real honor. I always love your energy, and I love how what you bring to the world really helps people discover their purpose and their passion and combine that with profits as well, and really figure out, who are you being? What are you supposed to do? So the first thing I want to ask you is, what was the thing that inspired you to write this New York Times best-selling book? What is your what? What inspired you? It's
interesting, man. In Authorland, they say you write the book that you most need. And so this is definitely one of those things where, I mean, for not my whole life, I hate when people say my whole life. It's like, no, when you were a baby, you weren't thinking about that stuff. I mean, no, like my whole adult life.
I came out from day one, and I looked at my mom. I couldn't say the words, but I knew I wanted to be a podcaster.
And so for my adult life anyway, I was really just kind of struggling with this question of what is it that I'm here to do? What can I do? And realistically, how am I going to do something that not only impacts those who share this lifetime with me, but also those of lifetimes to come? And so I went through all of the available modalities, the Myers-Briggs, the what color is your parachute, all the strengths finding, all that stuff that people talk about. I think I went through them all. And, most of them left me with more questions than answers. I mean, it's like, all right, it's all well and good that, you're an ENTF or whatever you work out to be. And I'm just sitting there going like, WTF, I mean, like, what difference does that make? Like, what do I do? And that was the question that I had was, okay, so I've got this information. What do I actually do with it? And the more I went and dug into all of those modalities, the more frustrated I got. So when I couldn't find a modality that really worked to help me hit the ground running, I created it. And the result of, really years of talking to people and teaching and researching and whatnot, that's what became the What is Your What framework.
I would really love to hear from you how you even begin the process of finding that thing that you were born to do.
Yeah, it's kind of a misnomer. And let's not get hung up on that born to do thing, because people were like, oh, I wasn't born to do it or whatever. Like how, I'm going to not do that for the rest of my life. No, it's not really a rest of your life thing. It should probably be called discover the one amazing thing you were born to do for now, because reality is life happens and things happen. And so it's more organic. It evolves. Things that you do today, you may not necessarily be doing 10 years from now. And that's just kind of the way life is. But there is a specific framework to the what is your what equation that involves understanding what your core gift is. That's in your DNA. There's nothing you can do about it. And then the primary vehicle that you will use to share your gift with the world. And the third piece of the puzzle are the people that you're most compelled to serve. So it's the combination of the gift, the vehicle, and the people that make up the what is your what equation.
As you're talking, I'm really thinking about how I found my niche and the journey that I've taken. And for me, finding my niche was always just asking this one question is, what's the thing that I love to do? And even though I'm not being paid for it, I will still want to do. And somehow that has always been somewhere where it's about building relationships and making connections. Prior to hosting this podcast, I did relationship work, and then I started the podcast, and I started a business podcasting and helping people with that. But it's always come down to relationships, and that journey hasn't been an easy one because I didn't really know that it all revolved around relationships and making connections. I'm curious, what do you suggest people start asking themselves to figure out their purpose or their what?
Yeah. And it's a great point. I mean, there are plenty of folks out there who will tell you to, kind of run through some of those things like, oh, if you didn't get paid a cent for it and that's something you would do every day, what would it be? Or what are questions that people ask you about all the time, or what recurring themes, come up in your life? Maybe that's what it is. And yeah, I mean, that's definitely a way to look at it. And it's really cool that you've been able to identify the fact that, these relationships, and I know your story, man, and having, like you said, having you had on the show, man, is just unbelievable what you've been through. And so I know how important relationships really are to you. And reality is you could have gone one and two directions. I mean, you could have loved everybody from that point forward, or you could have hated everybody from that point forward. And, you chose the path of love. Not everybody is nearly as strong as you are mentally, and physically, and emotionally. But that's the kind of thing that is, I mean, when you look at your life, there are certainly themes that come up time and time again. But most of us spend a lifetime in denial about what those things really are. And so all of those types of questions, looking at the recurring themes, and so those are great ways to get started. I put people through a process that I call the 7 seeds of your soul. And we don't really have enough time to go through all of that here. But basically, it's designed to help you figure out how you're naturally wired to excel. So it's not really about themes. It's not really about things that you would do if if you could do it and didn't get paid a cent, but you do it anyway. It's not necessarily about that so much as it's really just being able to look within and dig out from what's already within your DNA, what presently exists and already puts fire in your soul without you having to do anything about it.
I want to throw out a little controversy here because I heard you say that passion is overrated.
It is true.
And for me, I only like doing the things that I really, really like doing. And I feel like passion is something that's super important to me. It's like I gotta love what I'm doing every day, or I don't want to do it, and I won't do it. And I really try to shape my life around the things that are just like light me up. And I find a lot of success in that. So, yeah, I'd love to hear the other side of that coin around your views on passion being overrated.
Yeah, and just so that we're clear on this, what I mean by passion is overrated, I mean passion as a career is overrated. Because just because you are passionate about something doesn't mean that is what you should be doing for a career. I mean, there are a lot of hours in the day, and you can do something that you may not necessarily love from 9 to 5, but if it pays the bills and puts a roof over your head, and it's enough that you can do it without, hating it, then that's, for some people, that's perfectly fine, because in those other hours, what happens after 5 o'clock, what happens on the weekends, et cetera, they can dive into those things that really do, in fact, bring them the most joy. But what I find far too often is that people put this pressure on themselves to find something that they really love to do, that they're really good at, and then someone will pay them for. And there's just a very small sort of spot there in between the concentric circles of what might be termed as a dream job. And very few people have the ability to do something that they love, that they're good at, and that somebody will pay them exceptionally well for. And so you could have passion for dancing, but it doesn't mean that you're going to make a living as a dancer. You could love growing tomatoes in your garden. You can have a passion for growing tomatoes in your garden. But just because everybody tells you grow the best tomatoes in the neighborhood and you give them away and people love them, doesn't mean that you're going to be creating a tomato farm where you're actually making a living from growing these damn tomatoes. So, there's a big difference between passion and career. And I think people feel as though they have to be one and the same, and they don't.
Dang, I couldn't agree with you more. That's too bad. No, I mean, I think there's that real sweet spot that when you find something that you enjoy doing and it's something that's marketable, something that actually is going to bring in income, because I don't think that everything you do needs to be the thing that makes you money. Yeah,
that's exactly the point. And we honestly put so much pressure on ourselves to find that passion and to have that one thing. And I know it seems sort of ironic that the subtitle of my book is Discover the One Amazing Thing You Were Born to Do. And here I am telling you that you don't have to find that one thing. What I look at it as, it's really more a function of really understanding how you're naturally wired to excel. And so to Luis's point, in terms of relationships being just a huge part of his life, the fact is that Luis's core gift probably lies somewhere in, I would say probably somewhere in either the communicating arena or in the healing arena. And I bet you it's one of the two, or maybe a combination thereof, but it's usually one that's,
I think.
Yeah, but it's usually one that stands a little bit above the other, even if it's 49-51. But the question is then, once you know that is the core gift, either as a healer or as a communicator, what is going to be that primary vehicle that you use? And in this case, it's clearly the podcast and the other work that is done in terms of writing and so on, which leads me again back to thinking that it's probably communicating that is the core gift. But even if you have those two pieces in place, unless you have clarity around the people that you are most compelled to serve and serve them with, as I call it, strategic abandon, then you're going to find yourself having a difficult time sustaining not only your fire for what you're doing, but as you said, from a marketability standpoint.
One of the things that I'm really taking away from this conversation, and it's an important one that I learned early on as I was transitioning from leaving the regular 9 to 5, managing staff and being managed by someone else and being paid by someone else, essentially having my pay and my hours controlled and dictated by a job. That sounded harsh too, by the way, because I know that a lot of you guys have jobs and I commend you for it. I think having a job is fantastic, and being an entrepreneur isn't the way to go for everybody. And I'm not one of those people that will espouse be an entrepreneur or die. I am more one of these people that espouses do what you're good at, do what excites you, and hopefully you can combine all of that so that what you're doing a majority of your life to be paid is something that you enjoy. And here's one of the things that I've learned early on, Steve, and you guys listening, is one of the things I learned as I was trying to find what can I do to make a living outside of being an employee. I was reading, and I remember in this forum at one time, somebody said, don't just think about what you're passionate about or what excites you, but look at the things that you're good at that maybe you haven't looked into being paid for, or the things that people are asking you to do, or you might have a natural inclination towards having an expertise or an easiness with it. And that might not be the thing you're looking at, but it might be the very thing that you're actually really good at. And to kind of tag on to that, for me, I originally started in the relationship world. I was very good at communicating with couples. I'd done that work. So I thought, I'm going to start a business in the relationship world. And I thought, hey, I have the talents, I have the skills, I'm going to do it. And doing it on my own, I didn't do very well. But my ability to communicate and connect with people was excellent. And that's when a marketer spotted me and said, hey, Luis, I'd like to pay you for your communication abilities and for your ability to land amazing guests. Can you help me produce a podcast that's doing as well as yours? And I said, sure. And then Kamala came to me and said, hey, you should probably maybe switch your niche and start doing more podcasting stuff. And I went kicking and screaming. I didn't want to go there. I thought, I'm not going to be a business person. I'm not a business person. I'm a relationship expert. This is what I love doing. But the offers for me to help with podcasting kept coming in. And had it not been for people just basically screaming and Kamala grabbing me and pulling me with her, I would have stayed back and not had the results. And I think that for a lot of you guys listening, the message here is just because you're passionate about something doesn't mean it's the thing. Also have an open mind to other possibilities, because maybe there's something that's more lucrative that maybe not the most passionate thing you're about, but maybe it's the thing that you're made to do. Maya Angelou said that she hated writing poetry. She did not like it. And yet she's one of those few poetry writers who has made a huge difference in the world and was also a multimillionaire.
Yeah. And look, reality is we often find ourselves doing things that we don't necessarily want to do, that don't bring us joy. So sometimes we just need to look at it and find things to do that bring others joy, right? And that's where the third piece of the what is your what framework comes in, which is understanding the people that you're most compelled to serve. And it doesn't mean that the work that you're going to be doing and the activities that you're going to be undertaking are always going to provide massive fulfillment for you. That's when you have to step back and remember that you're not doing this for you. You really are doing this for those who are waiting for you to show up in their life.
Thriving Launchers, you know that I like to take it to the painfully practical level. So, Steve, I'd love to hear from you. What's something that we could do right away, like today, to start applying some of the things that you're talking about?
Well, the first thing that I recommend that people do is turn on the light switch, right? I mean, that's always going to be step number one, which is it's kind of like, if you can picture a dark room and you're walking around trying to feel your way through in this room, you don't know what's what, you're just kind of banging into things. I mean, that is truly how a lot of people go through life. And once you turn on the light and you can see what's what, you can then make a conscious choice about, do I want to turn left? Do I want to turn right? Do I want to exit the room? What do I want to do here? And I mean, that's how I look at it, which is more than anything else. Step one has to be turning on the light, which is recognizing and embracing and understanding the fact that there is, in fact, a particular way that you are wired to excel. And it's your goal now to decide whether or not you care. And so if you care, you'll move forward and you'll do what you need to figure out what that is. But at least I've done my job and you guys have done your job of planting the seed and saying there is, in fact, something out there for you that you, in fact, are very good at, that you do love to do, and that someone will pay you for. Now it's simply a question of the light switch is on. Are you going to keep it on or are you going to turn it off? And that's always where I ask people to start, which is just embracing the notion that there is something that really puts fire in their soul. And so that's where it all begins. And once you understand that this in fact exists, meaning this what exists within, now the real question becomes, what do I do with that knowledge? Do I pursue figuring out what that is, or do I just continue down the path I've been going down? And if the choice is I want to figure out what that is, then in my way of thinking, the easiest thing to do next is to create what I call an ABP statement, which is your attributes, your beliefs, and your perspectives. And what the ABP statement does for you is it gives you the opportunity to really just list out everything that has been a part of your life for as far back as you can remember in terms of your attributes. I mean, like Luis, so we kind of run through this. I mean, you've had a really rough go, man. I mean, you know what your attributes are. I mean, you're a survivor. You know, you're an immigrant. I mean, you're someone who has English as a second language. I mean, it's like all of these things. We can go on and on and on. Those are the attributes that you possess. You're a man, right? I mean, you're a man. I mean, it's like on and on. These are your attributes. Your beliefs. I believe in God. I believe in love. I believe in abortion. I believe in whatever those things are that you have. I believe in Christ, whatever those are. You list out your beliefs and then you list out your perspectives in terms of how you view the world in your own unique way. And what ends up happening is there are certain things on that piece of paper that you'll feel a much deeper emotional connection to than others. And oftentimes you may find that is the way that you can back into the third part of the what is your what framework, which are the people that you're most compelled to serve, because you may find that children, who have, been abandoned or who have been in foster care or whatever it might be, those are the people that you're most compelled to serve. Because oftentimes it's like looking in a mirror, and the people that we're most compelled to serve are people just like us, but just 10 or 12 or 15 steps back on the path.
I like all of that. And I think a lot of us don't take that time to really look at finding some themes in our lives, and also just taking kind of an objective look at who we are and what we're up to, and then translating that into something actionable. A lot of us just kind of mistakenly think this is who I am, and that's it, and I don't really know who that is, or somehow not really getting a full snapshot. One of the last things I want to ask you here, I know Kamala has a last question here after me, but one of the last things I want to ask you along this vein of finding your what, because for me it's interesting. I'm an academic. I love academia. I went to a private Jesuit university, so I have a very good education and I love school. But one of the things that you say is that college is one of the worst investments. Don't do it. And I'm curious about that, because I'm very different about that. I think that college is oftentimes the thing that people use to find their what, or the thing that helps give them kind of a shining force. And if it wasn't for colleges, we might have a lot of people that are walking around and don't really have this kind of global picture of things and an ability to make an astute observation and really have some sort of education behind their theories. Instead, most people are just kind of shotgunning it. But I really attribute college as being a really great investment. So we differ here, but I'd love to hear your opinion.
You're with me. All right. And let me just, before the hate mail starts rolling in here, let me just say that what I mean by college is the single worst investment that can be made. What I actually said, and I'm quoted as being said, is that college is the single worst investment that a parent can make. I'm all for education in terms of, if you pay for it yourself, go for it. If that's your thing and you're going to invest in your future and whatnot, then have at it. But what I know is that 85% of those who graduate with a 4-year degree do not work within their field of study, within 5 years of graduation. And so it's basically a social experiment gone wrong. And for 15% of the people who go to college who know what they want to do, they know they want to be an architect, or they know they want to be a doctor, they know they want to be this, that, and the other, by all means, go to school. By all means, go get that piece of paper, do whatever it is that you need to do in order to have the qualifications that you need to make that into your living, to make that into your career. But most of the time, parents just write these blank checks, and the only return that they end up getting on their investment is the return of that child to the house. And, I don't think that that's really the return that they had in mind when they started forking out 40, 50 grand a year to send this child off to figure out who they are. I'd rather you see from a parental perspective. I've got 2 kids of my own. If they don't know what they want to do, I'd say give them $5 grand and a kick in the ass and let them go out in the world and figure out who they are. And when they're ready, let them pursue the education that they need, if in fact they need a formal education to do what they want to do. And if they figure out that they need a formal education to do it, the best thing of all, in my way of thinking, is for them to, God forbid, pay for it themselves. Because as you've probably heard the expression, if you don't pay, you don't pay attention. And you put your own money into it, yeah, odds are pretty good you're going to get the return that's expected.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that
I'm glad I'm not your kid or his kid.
I just think that all too often that college is an overpriced way to figure out what you don't want to do. And if you actually know what you want to do ahead of time, you're so much further in the game, and you're not going to be as in debt as you would be. To really like not use a degree at all. But I love that you brought up that question, Luis, because I think it's a very interesting and important topic. So before we close out, what is the last gem that you want to leave the thriving launchers with, that you think like this is the thing that you guys need to know today?
Yeah. And that thing would be, you are the solution to someone else's problem. And they literally are waiting for you to show up in their life right now. And when you don't figure out what your what is and really gain clarity on the people that you're most compelled to serve and how you're most naturally wired to excel, and then create something around that most directly reflects who you are and how you want to be remembered and how you want to be seen in this lifetime and, of course, in lifetimes to come. You're not only doing a huge disservice to yourself, but you're really doing a huge disservice to those who are waiting for you. And so what I encourage you to really think about is being that first domino to fall. And set that chain reaction in motion, because what you got to try to just get your arms around here is that it's not just the people that are waiting for you, but it's the people that are waiting for them and the people that are waiting for them, and so on and so forth. I mean, this is why I give my book, What is Your What? Discover the One Amazing Thing You Were Born to Do, away for free, because I know that if you can figure out what your what is, you will make this world a better place, which inevitably makes my world a better place. But more importantly, it makes the world a better place for my children and for my children's children and so on. And I do believe that we all have really a responsibility, not only to ourselves, but to society, to play our part. And you have a part to play, albeit you may see it as this minor little role in this, this big, huge play. But I mean, just like a small pebble dropped in the body, a big body of water. I mean, that small pebble dropped in that big body of water still creates ripples that eventually reaches the shore. You may not be a tidal wave, but I guarantee you're still going to be impacting people along the way.
Thriving Launchers, thank you so much for tuning in. We've been here with Steve Olsher talking about what is your what, the one thing that you were born to do. And just encourage you guys to go out today and apply some of the amazing things that Steve has shared with us. Keep thriving, everyone. You've been listening to the Thriving Launch podcast. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure to head over to thrivinglaunch.com. We'll see you there.
Hey, Thriving Launchers, did you enjoy today's episode? Kamala and I sure hope you did. But hey, on our next episode, I'm going to have a very one-on-one conversation with you where we're going to dive in about how to use Facebook and Facebook Messenger to make sales. As a matter of fact, as I record this, we've made a couple $1,000s in one day using Facebook Messenger. A lot of people don't know how to utilize Messenger. And then the next episode, I'm going to show you how to do it so that you can start making sales organically on Facebook. I'll see you on that episode, and I look forward to having you subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show, and stay in touch. We want to know how the show's impacting you. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.